pi, but you'll also hear me say pi d, and that's what we're going to use today on our little chant that we're going to do. Yep. Okay, then the other one you need to write down, I don't have a real good explanation of why this is what it is, but area of a circle is pi r squared. So a couple years ago I had a student teacher, not Mr. Butler, but Miss Earls. Miss Earls was trying to come up with a way to make learning these two formulas a little bit easier. And as you did in kindergarten and first grade, maybe even some in second grade, teachers taught you by song or by rhythm. Even in fifth grade? Well, she came up with this simple little chant. I'm going to start off and I want you to join me. It's simply this. Pi d pi r squared. 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 Keep going. You've almost got the rhythm, Kennedy. All right. Pi d pi r squared. Even if you're not sure which one of those two is circumference, which one is area, at least you can get down in your mind to that chant, pi d pi r squared. Those are the two formulas. Here is the best way I think that I've heard of or come up with, Carly, in determining then if you can go pi d pi r squared, get those written down. How do we measure area? What dimension?
Rectangle.
Base times height, but if I say it's 68 centimeters squared. Area is squared, isn't it? Volume's cubed. But area is squared, and squared is with the 2. Which of our two formulas has a squared symbol in it?
Area.
Area. So if you can remember pi d pi r squared, and then r squared would have to be the area because of the squared value. Then you don't really have to remember circumference equals pi d and area equals pi r squared, but you remember the two formulas and then break them apart there at the end. Okay? So that's lesson 60. I'm not going to go do an example of that because we're going to be doing partial examples of that here today, which is lesson 64. Okay, so this problem, we've done some problems with like this that have not had the circular part on it. Let's talk a real quick terminology. This is part of a circle. It's exactly half of a circle, and a half of a circle is called a semicircle. Semicircle. When working out the circumference and the area of semicircles, I just use my two formulas like I would normally, and then at the end, divide by 2, like it's a triangle. But I don't try to divide things before I start working things out. I just solve it as if it was a full circle, and then divide by 2. Let's see how that works here. So perimeter, that's what I'm being asked to find first. The perimeter, I have the length of 11.18. I have the length of 15. I have the length of 10. And then I need this circumference amount right here. So I'm going to pretend that it's a full circle. What's our formulas again? Pi d, pi r squared, pi d, pi r squared. So pi d is circumference. I'm going to write that out. Circumference is pi d. We're given that the radius of this circle is 5. And Alyssa, if the radius is 5, what is the diameter then? 10. Do you agree? Yes, it's double the radius. The diameter is double the radius, so this is going to be 3.14 times 10. Use your calculators on this. Chris, when you take 31.4 times 10, you get, I'm sorry, when you take 3.14, you get 31.4, don't you? That would be the the circumference of the full circle, wouldn't it? If I were to extend that on out. Who is she?
She said something, I was like, I didn't
It was
understand
about
what
math.
she said.
Okay.
It was about math.
Excellent. You just have been turned around. Okay. All right, so that's the 31.4 is the circumference of the full circle. So A-Ray, what do I need to do to find just the semicircle part? Divide it by 2. Just like we do on a triangle, our formula says divide by 2. When we have half of a circle, we divide by 2, and that is 15.7. 15.7 is this length right here. Okay. So I'm going to add that to my perimeter because that is part of the distance around. You follow that on there? Follow me? Add that up. 8, 8, 11, 51.88, and we're in meters. And its perimeter is just measuring a distance, so it's not, we don't have a square or cube dimension with it. We'll wait on you. All right. Area. I'm going to erase the circumference part. That you can see that on the video, so that I have a little bit more room to be able to keep the area a little cleaner. Area. I need to break off this little piece so that I have some figures I can work with. So I have a triangle, I have a rectangle, and I have a semicircle. Let's find the area of the triangle first. Let's go, somebody I don't ask. Kennedy, on a triangle, how do you determine the base and the height? What determines base and height?
Where the
Where the right angle is. Very good. So the right angle, whenever I draw this, is at this point right here.
So it'd be 15 and 11.
Almost. We only need that part of the triangle, don't we? So the whole thing is 15, and the top part is 10. So that would make our missing little chunk here 5. We already discussed in our semicircle, or in our circumference, that the diameter of this circle was 10, because we have this radius of 5. If I swing this up, that means that this radius is 5 and this radius is 5. So that segment running through the center of the circle is the diameter, and it has a height of 10. So my height on my triangle then is 10. So I have base times height. 5 times 10 is, class?
50. 50
50.
divided by 2.
And then it's a triangle. Divided by 2 is 25. We have to divide it by 2. Megan, we have the rectangle in the middle now. How do I find the area of that?
10 times
10 times what? 10
10.
times 10? You changed. Okay. 10 times 10 is
100.
100. Good.
Why would you want to count?
What's that?
Why would it be the 10 times 10?
Because I've already taken care of this little piece
Yeah, but that way.
right here.
Yeah.
Why am I using 10?
Never mind.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't understand. Right, so now we're at our circle. So our formulas are pi d, pi r squared. Pi d, pi r squared. Squared deals with the area, so pi r squared. I'm going to write that down so I don't have to remember it. Pi is 3.14. And then radius squared. Radius is
10, 5.
5 squared. Now a mistake that I saw a ton on this last test with not your class but the other two pre-algebra classes that were taking test 15 I think, is there was a problem set up like this where they plugged in values. You know what they were doing? They were taking 3.14 times 5 and then squaring that. What's wrong with that?
You gotta do the 5 calculator.
Why do we have to do the 5 squared first?
Because it's in parentheses.
It's in parentheses and then you have exponents, our order of operation. You have to perform this exponent to this base first before you multiply.
25 times
So
3.14.
that's going to be 3.14 times 25. Do you have your calculators typed up on that one, Brianna? 78.5? Good. That is the area if it was a
Full circle.
full circle. So Kenny, what do I need to do? Divide it by 2. And dividing that by 2, Miss Salisbury? 39.15? 25. Okay, thank you. So there's your area of the semicircle. Now what do you do with those 3 areas? Add them together. 25, 100, 39.25. Put those together and that would give you your area. 164 something? That sounds right, 164.25. This one doesn't have a triangle, but it has 2 different semicircles. Let's find the perimeter first. Perimeter again, distance around. Let's find this length. We can determine that length by what?
The radius.
The radius is 4, so that means half of that is 4, but the other half is also 4. So 6 plus 4 plus 4 makes that whole thing 14. And then our diameter of that circle,
10. 5 and 5.
5 and 5 is 10. Good, Carlos. Okay, so now we have 3 of our parts. We have 10, 14, and I'll just write those out. And I also have this length of 6. So I'm going to put that in. Now I need to find the semicircles of each of these, or the circumference of the semicircles. So circumference is pi d. So calculators ready? 3.14 times the diameter of this circle, which would be 10, is
31.4.
31.4, and then we divide that by 2.
15.7.
So 15.7. Good. Now I need to do the same thing for the smaller semicircle. So that's still going to be 3.14, except the diameter on this one is 8. Good. 3.14 times 8.
25.12.
25.
25.12.
Okay. And divide that by 2.
12.
12.56.
Very good. 12.56. And add that to this. 10, 11, 12, 13, 18. Very good, mathematician. And that is in centimeters. 58.26. We're going to have to get the math leagues going. Kennedy would make a good math league.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's perimeter. That's the distance around. Now we're going to erase all that so it just cleans it up a little bit. I will leave the 14 but let's get rid of everything else that's part of the circumference. Okay, area of a circle. Pi d pi So it's pi r squared. Pi. So let's start with, let's go ahead and find our area of the rectangle real quick.
140.
Kate, what would the area of the rectangle be? Huh?
I said she didn't hear an answer. Never mind.
Okay.
It wasn't supposed to
Kate, how do we find area of a rectangle?
multiply 10 and 14.
Multiply 10 and 14. 10 times 14, class, then is 140. Alright, now let's go into our circles. Let's start with the little one this time. That's going to be 3.14 times the radius is
8.
4. Diameter is 8. Radius is 4. And then we need to square that. What's 4 squared, class?
16.
16. Now bring your calculator in. What do you get on that one? 50.24? Okay. Is that it?
No.
Why not? You have to divide it by 2 because it's a semicircle. So divide that by 2.
25.12.
Okay. So 25.12. Then we need to do the same process for our semicircle with a radius of 3 or 5. So 3.14. 3.14 times 5 squared. 3.14 times 25 is what?
I got the answer.
That'd be
78.5 and then
39.27.
39.27.
No, 25.
25. But after we divide that by 2, correct? That's where that came from.
Yeah.
So 78.5 would have been the area of the whole circle. Then divide that by 2, 39.25. Add 140, 39.25, 25 and 1200s on your calculators.
204.37.
204.37, and I would label this as centimeters squared. Area is squared and squared. These require a little bit of time. I'm not going to lie to you about this one. You can see we did 2 different problems doing the area and the perimeter, and it took us 20 minutes. Now you'll be able to go, I'm talking it through, you'll be able to go quicker than that, but it does require some lengthy arithmetic. And you have your calculators, use them, but write down the processes so that you can see and make sure you're doing the correct thing. Obviously not going to be due Wednesday. However, it is going to be due Tuesday
Do you have a test Monday that?
because we have a test Monday, making it a nice morning for me. And then based on however long it takes, I will remind you, late work, if you have any of that, this travel, the semester ends on the 9th,
No, 13.
15th,
13.
13th.
They are in
Anyway, 13, 15, somewhere in there. I'm suggesting the next Friday is the last day for late work.
Next week,
Friday, so that would be the 7th, right? Next Friday's the 8th? 8th, okay. Yeah, 7, today's the 1st, so it's the 7th and the 8th. Okay, so the 8th is going to be the last day for late work. I also want to remind you that when you're taking a test, you have the day we take the test. If I give you 2 days, you have 2 days. Then after that, it's up to you. Unless I think about it, I may say, hey, we need to finish the test. But I graded 5 or 6 tests yesterday, not in this class alone. But in my classes, I finally ended up grading 6 tests from people that have just not come back and finished. It's a borderline. I know there's a little level of, I'm the teacher, you're 8th graders, but there's a transition too of you being responsible. Somebody, I had gave somebody a grade report yesterday or the day before also in a different class. And said, hey, here you have 3 zeros in these, on these assignments from when you were gone. And he said, well, nobody told me what they were. Well, come ask me what they are. You're gone, it's your responsibility to get those, not for me. Now, if I think about it, then I'll sometimes say, hey, here you go, this is what we did. Yes, ma'am. I'm still recording, good, so you'll get to hear this again. Alright? If you want to listen to it. Alright?
So